Hello everybody, it's Juliet here, and today we're going to be making this really pretty rose earring, which is not very difficult. It's quite quick to make, and I think it's very romantic, kind of good for Valentine's Day, which is coming up. And it doesn't use too many materials either. I'm using a lot of products from Beebeecraft that I showed in my last unboxing, my last Beebeecraft video. So let's run through the materials. So the first thing I'm using out of this collection of filigrees that I showed you in the video. I'm using these round ones here, so I'm using the silver. There's also gold ones, so you could do it with a different theme if you wanted. And then I'm also using these red carved roses, and you get a huge big pack of these. So you could actually make a necklace. You know, you could do 3 of these and then kind of join the piece that actually sits on the filigree. You could join together some of those and make a very pretty necklace with that. And then the other product that I'm using from Beebeecraft today, if you remember this selection of rhinestones in settings, I'm using not the teeny tiny ones that came separately in the little bag. I'm using the second smallest of these little marquee shaped crystals. So I'm using those for the leaves here. And then I also have this very pretty little rose earring top that I did not get from Beebeecraft. I've just had this in my stash, but I found a very pretty one on Beebeecraft that I will put a link to, that I think actually might be a little bit nicer than this one. So I will put a link to the earring finding that I found that I thought looks really nice. And then I have some 11.0 Miyuki seed beads here in white, and a 4mm jump ring. I'm using a size 10 beading needle, and I'm using some beading thread. I have 32 inches on my needle, and which is about 82 centimeters. I would recommend using a thread that matches your filigree. So you could use like a gray or a clear or whatever kind of beading thread you want for this, because we are sewing it onto the metal filigree. And as you will see, if you look very carefully at the back here, let me see if I can get it to focus. It's very hard to see, but you can see a little bit of thread here on the back. See right here where it's crisscrossing. So you will be able to see a little bit of thread, but I mean, you know, when it's in your ear, nobody's going to be looking at the back of your earring, so you should be okay. All right. All right. So I'll just kind of move things around and then we'll get started. Okay, so the first thing that you need to know when you're working with a filigree is that it isn't fabric. I mean, that sounds really obvious, but when you're sewing onto fabric or even through a lot of beadwork, you can bend it. So it's easy to get your needle in the right position. But with the filigree, sometimes it can be very difficult to get your needle through certain beads if they're more hidden on the inside. Like if I wanted to sew through one of these beads that's under this flower, I would have a bit of difficulty perhaps if I was coming back down here and then I had to kind of stop, you know. So you want to plan for that when you're working. So what I like to do is sew as much as possible off the filigree and then sew it on, would be my recommendation, okay? All right, so we're gonna sew first. We're gonna make the little kind of star embellishment here that the flower sits on. It kind of reminds me of a little doily or something. Okay, so we're gonna pick up 18 of our 11 seed beads, and I'm just using rounds. Okay, so I like to pick them up in 3 sets of 6. So that's 1. That's 2. And that's 3. Okay, and I'm pushing them all down, and I'm going to leave about a 4-inch tail, and I'm going to go ahead and sew through all of them again from the tail end up towards my needle end of the thread. So I'm just gonna quickly pass through all 18, and you might want to double check that you did actually pick up 18 as well. Push all that down. And once you get it adjusted so that you're still leaving that 4-inch tail, we're just going to tie a knot. So I'm just tying a simple square knot. So I'm putting my needle over my tail and I'm twisting under it. And then with my other hand, I'm putting it over and twisting under. Okay, so when you pull it, you will have a little circle with 18 beads. This is my tail thread. This is my working thread. So I'm just going to leave my tail there for a second. And I'm going to pick up 4 beads. So pick up 4 seed beads. And where my thread is coming out, I'm going to go. So if I'm coming out on this side of the hole on the top, I'm going to go into the other side of the hole plus 3 more beads. So I'm going through 4 in total. So I'm going through 1 plus 3. Okay. And I'm going to repeat this 6 times, or 5 more times, 6 in total. So I'm picking up 4 beads. Again, I'm going into the other side of the one I'm coming out of, plus 3. And I'll quickly do that all the way around. Okay, so I'm about to put my last 4 on. And here I'm going to go only through 2. So I'm only going through the one that my thread is coming out of plus 1 more when I get to the end. So you should have something that looks like this with 6 sections of 4. Okay, so I am now going to switch directions. So I'm going to flip my work over really quickly, and so I'm coming out towards myself here, but I'm still going to work in the same direction I was working in. So I'm going to go up the next 2 beads on the first thing above where I am right here. Okay, so I'm just going up there. I'm going to pick up 1 seed bead, and I'm going to go down the 2 on the other side, and then I'm going to go pass through the 3 that are underneath me. Okay, and then I'm going to pass through the next 3 that are below me. I'm going to pass up the 2 on this side that are above the bead that I'm coming out from. I'm going to pick up one seed bead. I'm going to go down the next two. And then I'm going to pass through the three that are underneath me. Pass through the next three as well. Go up two. Pick up one. Go down two. Pass through the three that are below. And just repeat this all the way around. Okay, so I'm about to add my last point on. And so I go down the two, pass through the three below where I am. And now I have a star with kind of points like this, okay? So at this point, go ahead and take a moment to weave in your short tail, but leave your working thread active. Just sew in your tail and cut it off. It's already tied, so you just need to hide it and then cut it off, okay? Okay, so I've tied off my tail, and now we're going to begin to sew onto our filigree. So if we look at the filigree, you'll see that we have kind of 6 spokes here, and we have 6 points here. And what we want is we want the point of our star to point towards the points on the outer edge, like this, okay? So this is the way we're going to have it sewn on. So I am coming out at the moment just between 2 of my units here. So I'm going to move up to a point. I'm just going to sew through one more bead here. Okay, so I just sewed through the next bead, so I'm coming out from right before the one in the middle here, okay? And then I'm just going to sew up those 3 beads at the point. And come out from the top bead, okay? All right, so if we line up our filigree here, you will see that where you want to sew, we're going to sew through these lower holes, like underneath this circle here, okay? So I'm coming out right here, so I'm just going to sew my needle down through that hole and up through the hole next to the bead where I am, through that bead again. Okay, so that is now attached around this little piece of metal right here, okay? There's my thread. So I'm not sewing the top holes, I'm sewing the second holes down from where this little point is, okay? So next, I'm going to go down the hole again, the same hole. And I'm going to look down to the center here. So I'm coming out from this hole here. I am going to sew down and come up, not the hole below where I am, but the next hole. So I sewed up here. You can see the thread a little bit. I'm not coming out the hole below the one I sewed. I'm coming up the next hole next to the middle, okay? Right on the inside there. Then I'm going to sew through the 2 beads that kind of separate the 2 points of our star, okay? So I'm going through the 2 at the base of the star. And then I'm going through the next hole in the middle. So I'm moving backwards, back up to where I kind of already joined on. So this is the one that's joined right here, this corner. So I went from this hole, I came up this hole, and I went down the hole where my corner is joined, okay? And then I'm going to jump all the way over, and I'm going to come up the next hole here where my little point is. And that is going to make a little crisscross on the back like this, okay? So it should have a crisscross. So here I am. I'm going to sew through my next point. I'm going to go down through the filigree next to where the point is. I'm going to go up and through that bead again. So I've now just attached my point on. This is now attached. Go down through the same hole. Now I'm going to move forward to underneath the next point. I'm going to sew backwards through the two beads at the base of my two spokes, or points of my star, I guess. So you're coming forward and then you're going backwards. Go down directly below the one the point you just attached. Okay, so that's, and then you're going to come up in front of your next point. And you're going to repeat this all the way around. So I'll just do it a couple more times for you. So I'm coming out here. So we go forward, go down, go up, and go through that point again. You have to go through twice in order to actually attach that point on. Go down, move forward to the base of the next point, move back through the two, down through the one directly below where you are, and then up in front of the next point. Okay. So I now have 3 of my points attached. So remember, you have to go through, down, up, and through again. Down, up, through again to attach. Go down, go up the point of the next point, underneath the next point, go backwards through your 2, down below the point you just completed, and then up beside your next point. Okay, so I'm going to do my last 2 and then I will come back. Okay, so I just sewed my last point on, and I'm still going to complete the maneuver by going down through the next hole, going through the 2 that are there, and down through the next hole, and I'm going to pop up in the same place. So I should now have, if you look at the back here, see these crisscrosses all the way around. Okay, it's very hard to see them, but just right here, here, here. And all of my points are attached on my star. Okay. All right, so now we're going to put on our 2 little rhinestones here. So I'm just going to pass through the point again. And I'm going to move down the next 2 beads right here. I'm going to pass through the 2 at the base. And I'm going to go up 2. So I'm not going into the point, I'm just going up 2 right here. Okay. Now I'm going to pick up my my rhinestone, so I know it has to go right like this, and I'm here, so I want to sew through the hole in that direction. Sometimes it's a little tricky to figure out which way you're sewing through which hole, so I like to kind of get a visual of where I need to go before I do it. I'm having trouble. Okay. All right. So sew through the 2 holes there at the and then I'm going to go down the 2 beads that are, so here I am coming out right here, and here is where my rhinestone is going to sit. So I went up these 2, I'm going to go down these 2 right here. Okay, so it's just going to sit just like that, and I'm going to repeat just so that I reinforce that path. So just do it again, go through the bottom 2, go up the 2 on this side, through the rhinestone setting, and back down those 2. Okay. Now I'm going to pass through the bead that is directly in the middle here underneath our point, plus 1 more. So 2 in total. So I'm going through the middle bead plus 1. And I'm going to go up the next 2 on that point there. Okay, and now I'm in position to pick up my 2nd rhinestone, so I'm just looking at which way I need to go through the stone. So I need to go through this way, like that. And I'm working back towards the other rhinestone here. So they should be in the 2 spaces next to each other, okay? And then I'm going to go down the 2 beads here, through the 2 beads at the base of my 2 points, up my 2 side beads and through the setting. Okay, and then here, instead of going back down, I'm going to go through the point. And this is what I'm talking about, where it starts to get a little tricky. To get a good angle to go through there. So just do the best you can. If you have to sew under your rhinestone, that's okay, because you can sew your way back again. And you can kind of lift them up as well. Okay, so I'm through there. I'm going to go down through the same hole that we were going through when we were sewing on our points. So go down through that hole. And I'm gonna try not to get looped. And then I'm gonna come up through the hole right above right here, okay? I'm gonna move through the second hole on the setting of the rhinestone. And I'm gonna go down the hole here next to the next point over. So you should be using the two side points, not the two side holes here, not the hole that this is covering, okay? So then I'm just going to repeat that. I'm going to come up the other one, and I'm going to sew through again. And I'm going to sew down that hole again. So this one is now attached, okay? Then I'm going to sew up through the gap next to where my seed bead point is. And here again, gets a little tricky. You got to get through that seed bead again. But you can move your rhinestone up if you need to. And go down that hole on the other side. So we're just passing over our rhinestone. And then we're going to jump all the way over to the far hole here. So remember, we're sewing into the two here, pass through the rhinestone. And down and repeat again, just to make sure that that is sewn on really nicely. And down. Okay, and then I am going to just pop up through the hole next to where the point of my star is, and I'm going to sew down the two seed beads to get back down to the middle circle. Okay, so my rhinestones are now attached on. So now we just have to attach our flower on. So to do that, we're going to use, and it doesn't matter which beads you use, but you want them to be opposite. So I'm going to use the middle beads here and here of these two flowers, or these two petals, kind of this bead and this bead. So I'm going to sew my way over there. Okay, so I'm coming out from the bead that I wanted at my point here, like below my point, and there's the bead that I'm going to use for the other side of where I'm attaching my flower. So go ahead and pick up your flower. It only has one hole through it, okay? So go ahead, go through the hole, and I'm coming out from the left-hand side of this bead, so I'm going to go through the right hand, enter from the right to the left on through that one bead that's opposite underneath the point. Okay, now don't pull too tight here yet, because you want to be able to see what you're doing. So back through the flower, and I'm just leaving it loose for now so I can get in my beads. And now I want to enter into, so you can see here there's already thread coming out from the left hand side, so I'm going to enter into the right hand side, and then I'm just going to move forward like one more bead. So I'm sewing through 2 right here. Okay, and now you can start to pull tight and get your flower seated down there. Now that you don't need to see anything, get it in there. Okay, and then you can, once you've got it all pulled tight, just keep pulling up and pulling until you have no slack thread shown anywhere. Then you can go up through the 2 beads on the point, like I'm coming out between here. So I'm just going up through one of the points on my star. Okay. And I'm going to go down here through the filigree, and I'm going to come back up. I'm going to go through again, but I'm not going to pull tight. I'm going to tie a knot here. So I'm just going to go through that hole. And I'm going to repeat and tie another knot. If it helps, you can just stick your finger in the way to hold it up. So I'm just catching my thread and tying another knot. And then I can just sew through a couple of beads and cut my thread off. Okay. So once you've got a couple knots, that should be adequate. This isn't going to get too much, it's not going to get too loose, I don't think. Okay. If you have a bead zapper, you might want to use that to just get rid of any little thread that's showing. Mine, I need to get a new tip. I broke it. So, all right. So we've finished sewing onto our thing. So we just need to attach a jump ring, and the way I'm attaching mine is I want them to be kind of a little off center like this. So I will be attaching mine to this hole here. So I'm just going to get a couple of my bent nose pliers. I prefer to use bent nose. You can use straight. First thing I like to do when I'm doing jump rings is I like to flatten them out and get them lined up so that I know that they're going to sit in line nicely before I even start. And then I can open them, go through where I need it to be, add on the earring the way I need it to face, and then I can close it off. So just twist it open and twist it closed. You shouldn't be pulling on jump rings, you should just be twisting. And I do like to give it a little bit of a wiggle just to help the metal harden a little bit. Okay, so there are my earrings. I think they're really nice. I like these a lot. So I hope you've enjoyed this. And like I said, you know, you could totally just make the little star and connect some of these together and make a pretty earring, pretty necklace. So go and check out in the comments, or not in the comments, in the description below. All the materials are listed there. Beebeecraft. You can use code JULES10 for 10% off your order. And I will see you guys soon in our next video. Bye for now.